When I was going through the schedule for your consultation, 1 week consultation at Kila, my memories went back to, say, the latter half of 1980s. Then myself and Professor Michael Tharagan, in fact, he must have spoken to you. We were teaching a course on Kerala development experience. At that time, at Center for Development Studies, we had UNFPA run program, international program. So the course was not in the classroom. We would pack everybody into a large bus and we take a tour of Kerala, starting with Kuttanad. It's a wetland area of Kerala, which is an ecological disaster, human-made ecological disaster. And so it tells what development should not be. And through the tour, we'll be visiting various experiments in alternative technology and process. And finally end in Kannur, in a village called Pinarai, where there is a cooperative in every aspect of their life. Cooperative school, cooperative tutorial, cooperative martial arts center, cooperative hospital, you call what? So we finally end up there. And that session is to be called Cooperative the Future. Something very related to the theme. And in fact, we would visit ULCCS and also Kerala Dinesh BD, which were part of your field trip. Now, that also prompted me, in fact, to the 2 books which have already been referred to. One on Dinesh BD, which is published by Cornell University Press. Another on ULCCS, which is brought out by Leftware Delhi. Now, I have absolutely no doubt that future lies not in the present system, but in a new alternative. And social enterprises like cooperatives are going to be a key component of the future. For 3 reasons. I think at this fag end of your consult, these 3 reasons. One is the present system alienates, creates alienation of human labor, the failure to provide decent work. Labor is the essence of a human being that defines human being. But he has no control over the labor process and he is alienated, and this is an unacceptable situation. Second is the growing inequality. You only have to read Piketty to understand how never in the history of humanity has the world been so unequal as today. Third, the whole metabolic rift between nature and human being, which threatens itself. And therefore, we don't know the way, the process through which we are going to change the present world. But definitely this is untenable. This cannot continue indefinitely. And in the new world, alternative world, cooperative is definitely going to be an important form of organizing the work. Now, having said that, I think there are the present day cooperatives are constrained by a number of impediments. So much so The mainstream economics would say the cooperatives cannot succeed at all. Now, the two cooperatives that we visited are examples how, in actual practice, these barriers have been overcome. And I wish to say a few words regarding that. The first is that it is difficult, there's a barrier to entry for a cooperative to enter into an economic production or trade or credit area. Simplest reason being that you need capital. Now, particularly in the modern world, you need huge capital to make an entry. And mobilization of capital for a cooperative is going to be difficult. Now, if you take ULCCS, you will understand, if the history, this was the major drag on the growth of the cooperative from the first 4 decades, which held it back. But then finally, they overcame it because such was their prestige and acceptance in the community. They received deposits from the community. Then, after independence, the government came forward to support it. It is part of the development program and so on. So it's very, very important if you're thinking of cooperative development, how to finance it. Now, we understand the importance of financing, and therefore, much attention is being paid to credit cooperatives. And very recently, formation of Kerala Bank. By amalgamating the state cooperatives and the district cooperatives, we have created banking scheduled bank, which is the second largest in Kerala, which we hope within another 2-3 years will grow into the largest bank in Kerala. Now, this will play a very important role in financing the growth of the cooperatives in the state. So this is the first issue. And both these cooperatives which you have visited have overcome these barriers to entry, particularly capital, through cooperation with other cooperatives. A very important principle of seven principles, cooperating with other cooperatives, particularly credit cooperatives and government. So the point I want to make it is that it is important to have a protective umbrella for the cooperatives because they work in an alien environment, and therefore role of government is very important. Second is, okay, you establish a cooperative, but then it will be very difficult to succeed for two reasons. So in a capitalist economy, the firms attempt to maximize profits. That's a sole objective. Everything else is subject to that. But cooperative, by definition, has multiple objectives. Profit maximization is not the objective. Egalitarianism may be an objective. Workers' health will be objective. The workers' control of a labor process may be another objective. Now, with these multiple objectives, traditional theory will tell you it is very difficult to operate a firm. And secondly, there is a question of the boss. Capitalist firm has a boss, and everybody is under him. What he commands, his word is the command. But on the hand, in the cooperative, the management is hired by the workers. They elect that management. On the other hand, management is appointed by the owner in the capitalist firm. So this creates problems regarding control. These are two very important bad issues related to cooperative management. And this is anybody in the cooperative field will have to address both these issues in the functioning. Now, particularly management. See, you take the example of both Uralangal Labor Contract Society and Dinesh BD. Through a number of ways, they have overcome these problems. The first, their advantage was there were cooperatives from below. They were not invited by government to form the cooperative. These cooperatives were invented by the workers themselves in their struggle. So there's a tremendous amount of loyalty to the institution. And that institutional loyalty brings in automatically cooperation, common goal of success is made paramount. So it's very, very important. On the hand, cooperatives which are just invented by government or invited by government and say as part of 5-year plan or target, or department of targets and so on, they tend to be much more bureaucratic, and there is an alienation of the members from the management, and you have all lots of problems taking place. And the multiple goals becomes problem and so on. So it's very, very important in the design of the cooperative to bring in structures that ensure participation, transparency, and transparency. Now, for example, Uralangal Labor Contract Society, though there is elected management, but management is selected, they have autonomy. They run. But there is a process of continuous consultation with the workers. Each work site has a workers' committee. After every day, they meet, they discuss what has happened during the day, then plan for the next day. Now, normally, a director would directly participate. All the directors are workers themselves. That is mandatory. So they have brought in a number of institutional arrangements to see that there is no sense of alienation. There is a formal, there's always a continuous participation of workers in the various levels of review and decision-making process. And that's very, very important. Member control is through, say, election. But once they're elected, they're given autonomy. But at the same time, there would have to be arrangements to ensure participation of workers on day-to-day functioning of the cooperative. In fact, both the books go at length to discuss these arrangements. In fact, the title of Dinesh PD book is Democracy at Work. How this democratic functioning occurs. And therefore, you find both these cooperatives have been efficient, they have been producing profit, they have been running on profit. But the third problem would rise. Okay, they are running on profit, but there is no compulsion to accumulate, save the profit. Because the worker, the current worker, has no stake in the future cooperative. Suppose the profit is accumulated and invested. When the current worker, say, leaves, retires from the cooperative, he doesn't get a share of it. What he gets is his wages, whatever it is. He doesn't get a share in the cooperative take when he retires. Therefore, the attitude of the workers will be to distribute the profits, not to accumulate. So the mainstream economic theory tells you that it is impossible for accumulation process to take place in a cooperative structure. But both these cooperatives, when they were started, they had hardly any capital, but both of them today have assets worth, I would say, uh, ULCCS more than 1,000 crores, Dinesh PD more than 500 crores, which all have been accumulated from the last few decades, 5 decades of working, functioning. So they have succeeded in accumulating. Yes. How is this arrangement brought about? Primary condition is that workers' real wages should rise. That's a primary condition. If you take ULCCS, the wages of workers between in the 1980s to 2010s increased by 170% total emoluments. The astounding increase in real wages. I'm not saying about nominal wages, in real wages. So you have an arrangement which ensures there's a continuous steady improvement in the standard of living of workers. Once that is guaranteed, the surplus that is there, that would be invested in improving the conditions of work, in getting new technology, in expanding the production. And that's a process that has taken place seamlessly in both these cooperatives. Have devoted a chapter each in the book trying to explain how it has happened actually. For example, the ULCCS, they do investment through taking credit. The investment is discussed in the general body and approved by the workers. But they don't wait for accumulation to take place till they can invest. Credit is taken from the banks and so on and invested. But the expenditure, financing the loan, say repayment of the principal and the interest, would take place from the current expenditure. So it's just something automatically taking place. Decision to invest by taking availing of a loan is taken with the participation of the workers. But by the accounting procedure is the foreign income, it is repaid. And therefore net profit would be something, profit that is net of the repayment of the loans taken for investment in the reinvestment in the corporate. The Dinesh BD has got different arrangements. You have member societies and a central society. Their accounting practice is that all incomes would come to the central society and increasing real wages and a bonus would be generously given to each of the cooperative. So this accounting procedure they are adopting would very seamlessly lead to automatic accumulation, large proportion of the profit. There is very hardly any literature on this, but I'm very, very impressed with the innovation of the accounting practice also by which this process is seamlessly taken. And finally, the mainstream economists would argue, well, once you succeed, like these two cooperatives, then it will cease to be a cooperative. Why? It will become a capitalist firm. Now take, for example, ULCCS. Just because such a large firm employing thousands of workers, and the majority of the workers are from outside, migrant workers. So it's very easy, simple for this cooperative to degenerate into a capitalist firm which exploits the migrant workers. So this is a degeneration hypothesis, they would call it. Or you take the secretism against Mondragon and so on, where you have a cooperative structure, then to run modern institutions like a cyber park of ULCCS or tourism projects or Mondragon, say multinational projects and so on, You form limited companies under the cooperative. So these limited companies, people would argue, are capitalist firms. So this is a very strong thing that cooperative cannot sustain because it will degenerate if it succeeds. So it's a deadly argument. It's very difficult to establish. If established, it's very difficult to succeed. And if it succeeds, it will degenerate. But here are two examples. The cooperatives that we visited have not degenerated. And that's a big political issue. See, let us take this is one. I think the starting point is that they came to be formed through a very fierce political struggle, and its ethos have survived over time. And for example, this ULCCS would be celebrating its golden jubilee, and one important component of the celebrations would be to teach every worker the history of the cooperative. Cooperative education, in other words, becomes very, very, very important. And also you be aware of the possibility of degeneration, therefore guard against this. How has ULCCS guarded against this? All migrant workers are members. Once you are a member, there is no discrimination whatsoever. You get all the benefits, emoluments on a par with Malayali worker who is a member. Since there are temporary people whose turnover is high, they are given only temporary membership, but they are given full emoluments. You look at the cultural development of the workers, the literacy, the social security. So this is a conscious attempt to have these temporary workers who are working also fully within the cooperative. You have new ways of transparency and participation. So this is something, a big struggle for the mind. And that's the seventh principle of the cooperative principles. Sixth one, where education, cooperative education becomes very, very important. That is to say, success of the cooperative would depend upon the political consciousness to a great extent. You may consider it's a kind of weakness of the cooperative, because in a capitalist economy, a firm which is not efficient, which does not maximize profit, will be punished by the market, will be disciplined by the market. But in a cooperative, it is the conscious people, the worker, who gets involved in the running of the cooperative. That's decisive. See, new alternative, new world, the future is man transcending from the world of fate, where you are plaything a market, you are determined externally. The human being becomes free, in the sense becomes a free actor in the historical process. And cooperative being the germ of this future, the miniature of this future to come, the consciousness becomes very, very important. And therefore, it is also very important in what political context the cooperative is embedded. If you take both these cooperatives, the success comes from their embeddedness in the left political culture of these two places. Even Montagu, the Basque rebellion and political movement is very important to understand its success. Now, in the context of Kerala, its embeddedness will also have to be in the local economy. And that's where the point that made by Dr. Joy becomes very, very important. The question why Kila should be involved in the corporate is precisely this. In fact, Nehru had a formula for development. He was speaking of rural areas, where it meant his formula was the panchayat, the school, and the cooperative. One of the weaknesses in the decentralization program Kerala has been that cooperatives have not been fully involved. And this is one weakness that we are trying to overcome. One, cooperatives becomes a very important social institution for developmental intervention by the local people. A social enterprise which can act, say, within agriculture, small scale industry, and even services becomes a very important instrument in local level planning. I will conclude with something very, very interesting and impressive. I saw in a panchayat called Mayil the other day when I went there. This is a panchayat which has been in the leading, in the front of the decentralization program ever since it started. But in 2017, they created a producer company. It's not a cooperative, but it's a social enterprise. You can say part of the solidarity economy. And after this formation, within 5 years, they were able to increase the total, say, the paddy production 4 times. 4 times. Productivity twice. And the entire paddy wetlands were being cultivated. This they did because they didn't stop with producer company. They had micro social units like Kudumbashree, neighborhood units of farmers, ward level committees, and introduced a whole protocol for paddy culture and nutrition to plants, which was followed very diligently, created a social environment which became local part of local pride, that of your paddy cultivation. So I went there for discussing about how to go forward. So the decision made was, okay, the valleys, now paddy is growing fully, but 70% of the panchayat, 60% of panchayat area is hillsides. What do you grow there? So we have decided to go into tree crops. We're thinking of planting lakhs of fruit trees, 2-3 varieties. So extend the producer company activities to hillsides. Then here is the Delhi innovation. Now, once you plant trees, fruit trees and so on, is being done every year. Once it is planted, nobody looks after that. Most of them die. So this village has now decided to have a labor bank. The capital of the labor bank would be the labor of the members, agriculture workers. So the farmers can hire the service of the labor bank. They would come, they would plant the trees. Tree planting, the payment would be from the rural employment program. But their upkeep and maintenance, geotag them and see that they survive, it will be undertaken by this labor bank. On the basis of number of days of employment required, there would be a payment to be made, but the farmers don't pay anything. Payment to the bank need to be made only when the crop is taken. The crop is taken, aggregated by the producer company and so, then the bank would be paid. But how would the labor bank then pay the wages for the current wages for the workers? The cooperative bank in the village would be extending an overdraft to this bank, labor bank. It's such a beautiful concept. You have a producer company, you have micro level organizations of the farmers, You have a labor bank whose capital is the labor of the members, which is given on loan to farmers. And here is a cooperative which would sell, which would finance the labor bank. And the producer company, it is suspected, would have value addition from the fruits and sell it, like they're having value addition for the paddy. See, this is what the local level planning and cooperative is about. Now the cooperative becomes embedded in the local plan, whether it be rural area or urban area. And therefore, this is a guarantee of success. While market people will tell that cooperatives won't succeed, local solidarity economy would create a condition for successful cooperative structure. Therefore, success of cooperative would depend very much upon local level planning, and local level planning, its success would be predicated by the cooperation from the cooperatives. And therefore, I believe it is a fitness of things that this consultation took place in Kila. I hope you had a very fruitful discussion, and I hope your field visits must have opened your eyes to Kerala. Kerala, we hope to make another possible world. No boasting that this is the possible world, another possible world, but definitely different from the mainstream social process. We have succeeded to some extent. Maybe we will be able to go further. Thank you very much.